Bronwyn, I mean, you go back to the whole referendum debate and as it played out, and it's things like that from SBS that Australians sat up, took notice and said, well, I'm not going to cop this. I don't wear this idea of voting yes.
Well, Steve, that's right. And what this apology has done is just remind us of how Albanese split the Australian nation, pursuing what he thought would be an easy victory for him, which he thought would be a piece of cake, and tell everybody nothing. And I think we have to remember that. This is a man who I've said again and again, Albanese I mean, who I sat in that chamber with for more than 20 years and nobody ever said was a leader. And this is the man who split the nation. You had 3 people in that studio of Aboriginal heritage who were in disagreement, but it just came out as that awful display of vitriol. And I think that Albanese, in failing in his address of what he's achieved in the last year, failing to mention at all the referendum and what it did to Australia, again reflects on him. So that apology was well and truly deserved for Warren, who fought a splendid campaign, and he put up with some dreadful attacks. But he's a strong man, he believed in what he was saying. And he and the new thinking that Senator Price is bringing about, that is that victimhood is not the way forward. It is to find out where the need is and to address it. And to be all proud Australians, I think, is the real outcome of that referendum.
Yeah, as Jacinta told us this week, I mean, she hasn't heard a word from Anthony Albanese since, and the problems of Alice Springs still exist. ABC heads continued to roll. Sophie, the radio host Antoinette Lattouf was sacked this afternoon, as she should have been, for her anti-Israel social media posts. Here's one of those posts. Have a listen.
Israelis get killed, Palestinians just die. Language matters. Israelis are always killed. You can also use the word slaughtered, barbaric attacks, victims of terrorism when describing their tragic deaths. But for Palestinians, given the body count exceeds 10,000, best to keep it ambiguous. Like, all these Palestinians have died. We don't know how. Maybe they spontaneously combusted. Maybe it had something to do with a dodgy air fryer or a Tesla.
How the hell did she ever think she was going to keep a job at the ABC by doing that?
Well, Steve, I broke this story this afternoon after putting inquiries into the ABC. Chair Ita Buttrose, Managing Director David Anderson received numerous complaints about what Antoinette was posting on social media. Now, this is a monumental failure of epic proportions by ABC management, who put Antoinette in that role as a fill-in radio broadcaster, Steve. Now, she's prolific on social media. She doesn't shy away from her pro-Palestinian views. This is not a secret. ABC management put her there. They knew exactly what she was doing, and I know on very good authority that Chair Ita Buttrose is absolutely furious about this. Management are in damage control. They're scrambling tonight. They don't have a host to replace Antoinette tomorrow at this point. When I last made inquiries about an hour ago, it is an absolute shambles. And Steve, I will say this, it always falls one way with the ABC. You never see hosts getting scolded for pro-Israel tweets or pro-Israel posts or pro-voice, the no side. It's always the same view, the leftist view of the ABC. This is rife through the public broadcaster. This has embarrassed the whole radio arm. And Steve, this is just an absolute disgrace that these sort of people are getting plum roles on the ABC. Management are putting them there.
Bronwyn, you and I have been around long enough to know when the ABC was classy, it was independent, it was balanced, and you could turn it on and you could rely for it. You know, the 7:45 news was always there, independent, accurately reporting. How's it gone so bad so quickly? I mean, it's just disgraceful these days.
Well, the rot really began in the 70s, and it slowly got worse and worse. And you always had a socialist cell in there. You had people who were very much identified along the way with the far left of politics. And unfortunately, there's no discipline from the top. It seems to be run by a collective. And my solution has been, or recommendation has been, that the charter that is contained in the legislation that established the commission or the corporation should be enforceable, because in the legislation it specifically states that it is not enforceable. You can't bring an action against the ABC for breach of its charter. Now, if you made the charter enforceable, then you would start to get accountability. It can't be beyond the wit of man to do that. So I think it's about time that happened. And then I think in the future there has to be a look at whether or not the ABC should become a subscription service. The BBC is looking at that. It may well be looked at here. But I think the way that the ABC is now going, where someone deliberately put that woman in that position, deliberately, knowing that others had been cast aside from their hosting roles because of their attitudes. And to be impartial means precisely that. To uphold standards means precisely that. So let's make the charter enforceable.
But Steve,
you must have had a little chuckle to yourself today, Bronwyn. Sorry, yeah.
Can I just add in, Steve, sorry to interrupt, but I will make this point, and with all due respect to what Bronwyn is saying, the coalition were in power for 10 years. They did nothing about this. This is not a new problem. This isn't something that just suddenly popped up out of nowhere. What did the coalition government do about this activism in the ABC? What did they do to change it? Nothing happened, and they are complaining about it, as they do, but they're largely to blame because they didn't do anything to make changes there.
Sophie, I've got to say that I did
Fair point, Bronwyn.
I did raise exactly that point in the party room. I have done it myself. The fact that it wasn't taken up, I won't tell you where I think blame should lie, but I haven't come up with this as a new idea.
Oh, why not, Bronwyn? That would be so fun.
Yes, well, I just think it is the way
you two can talk off air and we'll get names exchanged. Don't worry about that. Bronwyn Bishop and Sophie Ellsworth, thank you very much for your time as usual.